Hi everyone, this is Rohit here. I want to show you how to set up WMW application with ThinkPark Enterprise. So the first step is that once you log in into your account, you will see that there is a WMW application that should be already being created by our operations team. If it's not the case, you create one by clicking on the create button and setting up this URL that you see here, and you will also need to generate the LoRaWAN interface key if it's not there already, and you will need this key when you're sending downlinks to the tracker from WMW application. So note down the ThinkPark wireless application ID and the key on a separate piece of paper, and we will use that in the next step. Once you've created this application, then you go to the device list and you make sure that the devices that you want to use are actually routed to the WMW application. Once you do that, you go to the WMW login, and this is my login and password. You should have received this in the delivery notes. If it's not the case, you can contact our operations team to do so, and you log in to this account. Okay, once you go there, you will have you can click on asset, you can click on dashboard, and if the trackers or devices are not already inside the WMW application, you can hit the plus button and you can create a description of the tracker and the dev UI, and you can create the device type Abeeway if it does not exist already. In this case, the Abeeway employee is already existing, and this is the profile of the device. Then the next step is to create a downlink profile. If it is not already present, you click plus and you create a downlink profile, but in my case it's already present. Then it is very important that you set the alarm threshold to 1 and the warning threshold to 2 meters. This is today in line with the configuration that is by default inside the tracker, but please refer to the proximity application note on what these default parameters should be. It is important that when you first start the tests, you start with the default settings that we recommend, and then you can fine-tune these parameters as you go along for your production setup. So this is to set a downlink profile, and after that you can click the assets that you want to apply this profile to. Once you're done with that, you can click save, and this will save the downlink profile for these assets that you created in the earlier step. The next step that is required to send downlinks to the tracker is to go to the My Details tab, then you click connectivity, and here, depending on your account, so if you're using ThinkPark Wireless, you will use your login and password and the base URL, which you can request from our operations team. Usually this step is already done by somebody in our operations team, but if it is not done or you want to change it, you can modify the connectivity here. And this is for ThinkPark Wireless. If you want to use ThinkPark Enterprise, which is usually the case for proximity application, then you will have to put your login and password with the prefix of dev1 API and the ASID and AS key that I just showed you in the earlier step. So ASID and AS key, for example, you can go to applications list WMW, and this is your ASID and this is your AS key. And if you don't know it, you can regenerate it and save this application and then put this key back here. Okay, once you've done that, you can save it and you go to the assets again. Now you can bring the two assets close together and you will see that they will make a beep, and then once the two assets are communicating in LoRaWAN uplink, you can see the last 7 days of history, which is basically I'm on colleague 5, which is one of the trackers which is ending in the B, and this tracker is seeing another colleague 6 which is ending in C, and here you will see cumulated statistics of the proximity events, the duration, and the exposure threshold. Then you will also see the history of the last, for example, last 7 days, if the downlink was sent or not. If it was failed, you will see the failure, and you will also see the different uplinks that are being shown here, and how those are interpreted by the proximity application of WMW. For example, at this time, colleague 6 was detected by colleague B with a proximity of this duration resulting in 0% of high risk, and WMW application is computing that based on the cumulative exposure that is reported in the LoRaWAN messages. Then you can also go to the status messages and you can look the last 7 days of status, and in this case it is only reporting the heartbeat messages, and this is what you see here on how the Abeeway tags are how much battery is left in the tags. The next thing you can do is you can also go to the history where you can see whether the tag is in use or not, and then you can also look at the last few days of select the duration, and you can see whether the downlink is sent correctly or not. And if this step fails, it means that the tracker downlink has failed and there is something wrong with the authentication. So it is very important before you start to do the tests to make sure that the uplink and downlink path is working correctly and everything is set up before you start to make tests with the WMW application and Abeeway trackers. And you can also see how the uplinks are generated. So if you go to one of the devices and I go to list, so let's say I have this device here, I can go down into the last 10 packets and I can also see all the packets. If I click here, I'll go to wireless logger, and here you can see the different packets and how they're interpreted by our decoder. So this will be very helpful for you to debug when the tracker is sending the record messages, alarm messages. For example, in this case, the tracker was sending record stop because it did not see the other tracker for 256 seconds. You can find more information on what is the behavior of the tracker in a proximity application note. So with this, I conclude this presentation on how to set up WMW application with Abeeway trackers and ThinkPark Enterprise. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.